What's one of the photography YouTube channel's number one things to show you? What's in my bag? Or what bag do I use? That's fair. It's fair to understand why. So on the one hand, you as an aspirant in the land of photography, you want to see if there's some gear that you might be missing that you might want. But what's YouTube's number one job? It's to sell ads or to sell premium viewing that keeps you looking. And one way people love is show and tell videos. So people love to see gear. And we photographers love to talk about gear. And you get to make those videos that say gear doesn't matter and gear does matter. And you get to make those videos that say why I left Fujifilm and why I came back to Fujifilm. And you get to talk about I shot with this one camera for 30 days and here's what I learned. This is the Canon G7X, by the way, which I had no idea. It was like a super popular camera and I just have one. I don't want to make fun of other people, but I definitely think it's worth it to poke fun at some of the tropes, at some of the memes, at some of the ways that you see photography video after photographer YouTube video do what it does. And I thought today I would talk about gear. So there's all those, right? There's all those, if I knew today what I knew then, I would use this or whatever kind of videos. It's really funny when you think about it. And no one likes to be called out for feeling like we're falling prey to stuff, but every now and again, boy, don't you think to yourself, I already know what's going to be in the bag, something I don't have and something I might want. And I already know that there's a better bag out there for me because there's one thing my bag doesn't do, right? You know what I've been traveling with for photography lately? As best as I can, either a 28 to 75 on my camera body, which covers it all, or 28 in my pocket and something like a 50 or a 75 on the body. That's it. That's all I need. I don't need anything. We don't have to go through all this, but there's reasons we do. And I thought we could talk about that a little bit, about gear and why and some of that. And I could sneak in some conversation about some of my favorite gear, because why not? This on the Sony system is the absolute portrait beast. There's more expensive lenses. A lot of people can say good or bad about different lenses, but this is the 85mm f1.8, and I have watched video after video after video telling me why, even though there's more expensive versions of lenses for Sony, that if you want to do portraits, this one's the one. I don't know. I've been using it. I get some pretty good portraits out of it. Maybe it's the one. Why is this interesting? Because you might be saying, gee, I always wanted to do some more portraits. Well, a portrait lens will help you take better portraits. And because it's f1.8, you can blur out the background. And because it's 85mm, you could shoot nice and close to your subject. You can get low light shots. There's a lot of benefit to this lens if you need that for what you're trying to do. That last little bit is the bit, what you are trying to do. This is a little bitty pancake lens. Look, half of this is the lens cap for the back. This is a little bitty lens. It's the Viltrox 28mm f4.5. You screw this on any full frame camera or even an APS-C camera where it'll be a 40mm equivalent, and you've got yourself an incredible, tiny, little, just shoot it and have a nice day. It's got one f-stop, which is 4.5. Everything is not blurry, you can't shoot for miles with it. It's kind of a you can take it around and do anything kind of lens though. It is a do everything kind of lens insofar as shooting everything that you see out through the camera. You can't really do a great portrait with it as such. You can't blur the background, I guess I mean. But it's fun. And this lens, 28mm, is wide enough on a full frame and not too bad on an APS-C camera. And it's so tiny, you can take it with you anywhere. And I do. It's in my pocket at all times. What's in your bag? Who knows? Sometimes there's stuff in my bag. What's in my pocket? This little baby right here. This is the Tamron 28 to 75 f2.8. So because it's f2.8, you can get nice background blur. Not like obliterate the world background blur, but nice background blur. You could do low light with this. 28 to 75 means it covers wide, all the way to kind of a scene establishing shot, all the way up to portrait and slightly telephoto. 28 to 75 is a do everything kind of lens. And when I have to make sure that I'm guaranteed that I'm going to do something, like for instance, work on a project, and I need to come home with a shot, then 28 to 75 has always worked for me. It's perfect. You could have just that one lens and be very happy, or something, you know, in those equivalents, right? You know, something that does 28 to 75. I'm cooking lunch while we're talking. So I've shown you a couple of lenses. I've explained why they're super great lenses. I've talked to you a little bit about, you know, this one's great, or this one could do everything, or if you want to do portraits, here's the thing. So then why do we choose different lenses for different reasons? Or why do we have a bunch of lenses? Or why do we have different things in our bag? Oh, now that's a question, huh? It's a little bit like cooking this lunch, right? This is just ground beef and an onion so far. I'll throw in some spices. I will probably put some sauce in there. And then I'm going to put a crap ton of vegetables in. But ground beef you can use to make a hamburger. You can use it to make mince, I think you call it in the UK. You can use it in a lot of different ways. I can use it as the base for chili. So what's the reason for lots of lenses? Because you have lots of different things you might want to cook. And photography is a set of tools to get a desired output, not the other way around. You don't walk around trying to find a use for the tool. You use tools to get a project accomplished. See? Tomato in. So, for instance, right now on my lens, 40 millimeter. I've been using that Per Gear 35 millimeter a bit. This is the Viltrox 40 millimeter, F2.5. The F2.5 kind of, I wish there was a 40 millimeter that was like F1 something, but still sort of smallish, but if wishes were horses, right? One time, a long time ago in Vegas, I was having one of the first kind of expensive steaks I ever had. I have subsequently had very expensive steaks, but this was the first time I had a real, what I thought to be expensive steak. And I said to the server, what is the secret? Why does this steak taste so great? What are the secrets? And he said, I will let you in on our chef's secret. And he made me lean close. When I leaned close, and he said, salt. And I said, okay. He said, and pepper. I said, shut up. He goes, that's it. Salt and pepper. Now, subsequently, I've learned that, and also a little butter, but that's what made the steak good. Do you know why it's what made the steak good? Because salt brings out some of the flavors in the meat. Pepper adds just a little bit of contrast. It's all you need. That's what you need to make a pretty tasty steak. And he was right. So, why am I telling you this? Because sometimes tools are very useful. Oh, I was just thinking about this. Sometimes tools are very useful, and there's a reason why, and there's other ways you could do it, but it doesn't matter. Do you see this? This is one of those doodads you stick in your drink and blend up your drink, right? So you can froth some milk with it, or you can stir up something really fast. It's like a itty bitty baby blender. They're very inexpensive, and it's great. In a way, it's like this lens, right? My little Viltrox 28 millimeter f4. It is one job, one simple thing, inexpensive, and does that job really well. Other times, it might be great to have an expensive thing that does a specific job rather well as well. There's reasons why specific gear sometimes. That little thing makes it so I don't have to use a big full blender all the time. Sometimes some of my other lenses make it so that I can just kind of do my job and not think about it. It's not the same because it's more expensive, but my 28 to 75 lens can do everything if I wanted to. Everything. I can do portraits, I can do landscapes, I can do everything with that lens. But it's also kind of big, and so when I have it on my camera, I end up looking like a person who is out taking very specific, serious photos. And I might not want that. So I started off by teasing people for these what's in your gear bags, or I have switched, or what camera am I using? But there are some reasons for it. There are some values to it. I saw this video by Roman Fox, and he was talking about the difference between cameras that sort of involve you in their process versus cameras that get out of the way so you could take the shot. And wow, did that resonate with me. Last year, I went through a variety of different cameras in very rapid succession. What happened was I had a little money to spend. I spent the money, and then I learned really quickly, you can sell cameras back into the used market and recover quite a lot of your expense. So that meant there was no penalty for me to try out a bunch of different types of cameras, and so I did. And I had some of the best cameras you've ever heard of out there. The Fujifilm X106, the Ricoh GR3X, all these like important cameras, the Fujifilm X-T5, so many. And what I settled on, the one camera that I'm using, primary camera, Sony A7 IV. It is not the top of the line Sony. It is the current best in the A7 line, just the straight A7s. There's ones that have more megapixels. I don't need more megapixels. I'm not trying to make billboards that you could see from space. There's other ones that have a few extra features that mine doesn't. I'm okay. So the camera part is handled. Lenses, I'm still out there trying to find what lenses are interesting or bad or good or whatever for me. And so I watch gear reviews. I listen to what people say about it, and you can too, and it's fine. As long as you remember that what we're not doing is we're not looking for a tool to, and taking the tool with us to solve the problem. And as long as we're not letting the camera get in the way, the reason I ended up with the Sony is very similar to what Roman Fox said in his video. It gets out of the way. You basically are just working on the shot you want to take and not fussing. And I think that's really smart and sensible. So that's my logic there. I'm really curious to know your thoughts and takes on it. What are some gear type videos that you've liked? What are some things that you don't like that you hear in gear videos? We could talk about pet peeves, couldn't we? Drop me a line, chris@chrisbrogan.com. As always, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much for your time. Be good to yourself. I got to go back to cooking.